you ever noticed plants? I mean, really noticed them? Flowers, trees, the foliage on campus? It's amazing they all came from almost nothing, but have grown into something beautiful. Then again, this isn't about them. This is a presentation about Chinese Americans, and how in the same way as plants, they came to America with almost nothing, and have since then accomplished so much. And just like plants, I guess we'll call this segment Blossom. You could say it all started with this. The first Chinese Americans came for the gold rush. They wanted to make a fortune, plain and simple. In 1848, there were 325 of them. Each year after that, about the same number came. But in 1852, over 20,000 Chinese landed on shore. The Chinese were centered around San Francisco. At the time, more than half of all Chinese in the States lived there, and it was in that city that the first Chinatown was born. The Chinese also played a big part in the Transcontinental Railroad. They were cheap, dependable, and their employers paid them $28 a month to do the dangerous work of blasting and laying tracks. At first, people thought that they were too small and too weak to get the job done. But Charles Crocker, an executive of the Central Pacific Railroad, said, "Well, they built the Great Wall, didn't they?" Initially, Chinese people were received pretty well. As time grew on though, and as more Chinese flooded the job market, sentiments turned sour. In 1862, 88 Chinese were reported murdered, but they continued to press on and increase their population. Eventually, the US had had enough and passed the Naturalization Act of 1870, which barred all non-whites and non-blacks from entering the States. Also, in 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act was passed and restricted Chinese immigration specifically for the next 10 years. This made the ratio of Chinese male to female even more skewed. In 1890, there were 27 Chinese guys to every 1 Chinese girl. That same year, the population peaked at 100,000 and stopped, and then began to decline. Since then, the Chinese have definitely come a long way. Monterey Park is a great example of this. It has one of the largest populations of Chinese Americans in the US. So, the following is a brief overview of that city, then we'll focus on a place called Atlantic Times Square.
It begins. We are in Monterey Park.
There's some Chinese people over there.
Family. This is the core of Monterey Park right here.
Yeah.
Some more restaurants.
It's like where people walk at night, stuff like
Yeah.
that. Chinese people on the right.
Yeah, it's the minority right there, dude. Woo!
It's like we're on a safari. There's a bunch of other restaurants here. Ocean Star Restaurant, it's a famous upper class Chinese place. Alright, so we're coming up to the Atlantic Times Square right now. We got a park. I just forgot how to park. Yeah.
Around here that everybody
Did
goes.
I miss the parking lot?
I think you did.
What do you mean?
Oh, that's all for now.
perfect.
Oh, there you go. Cool. And we are here.
Alright. The Atlantic Times Square is a newly built plaza. It's a great example of assimilation, as you have this Chinese city incorporating American ideas of what a Times Square should be, but in many ways it also demonstrates acculturation, as you can see the Chinese culture still being retained. This place has upper-class apartment complexes, a 24 gym, an AMC theater, and an awesome selection of Chinese restaurants. We chose this plaza in this city because it shows how well the Chinese have adapted, and how like plants, they've blossomed against adversity, against the rain, and against struggle. The Chinese came to the US with nothing, and as you've seen, have accomplished a